What makes the web work?
Information and academics.
Passion.
I think it's information.
Electricity.
I think the web works on trust.
Developers.
Connected humans.
We do.
The people.
It's the people.
Totally people.
People make the web work.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Content Marketing World. I'm Kevin with Pantheon, and this is Web Sessions. Today, I'm joined by Brendan Hufford, founder of Growth Sprints. Brendan, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, Kevin, thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, I have one very important question for you, Brendan. What makes the web work?
Developers. I'd love to give you the marketing answer, but when you're an adult, you're like, I know who actually makes this all work.
Absolutely. Well, you've been working in the web for a long time, so you're very familiar with that. Obviously, developers are close to our heart at Pantheon too. Tell me a bit about your background and your experience working with developers, working with marketers on the other side to make the web work.
Yeah, so I came up back in the day where I grew up in like the hobby era of computers. My dad in the 80s would have his friends over on Friday nights and we would order some pizza and I would watch them build the computer.
Oh, that's
That
incredible.
was my introduction into all of this. And then as I grew up, I ended up working at a web design agency where I was the director of SEO, but it was primarily front-end, back-end engineers, some designers and stuff. And there was maybe two of us marketers there. And we were just there to kind of help our clients. Like sometimes they would bundle in some marketing with the design and dev work.
Well, so you eventually moved into broader SEO work for clients and then more marketing work on top of that.
Yeah, I worked at a web design agency for a number of years. I went and worked at a B2B SaaS agency. I went in-house at a really cool company called ActiveCampaign for a while. Now I work on my own primarily with software companies. But I think the through line of all of that is whether it is web, product dev, like all of those things, like it's the same group of people kind of powering things.
Yep.
I just have the privilege of sharing and spreading the word about things that I love.
That's great. Marketer, work closely with devs. What are some of the lessons that you've learned over your career on how those relationships can be stronger and how marketers can work closer with their development team? And vice versa, how developers can power their marketing team?
Yeah, I think everybody, it's like an easy answer of like, well, when everybody's tighter, like the marketing informs what they build and that informs the marketing. Like it becomes this really nice, powerful circle. And I think we can all see companies that have that figured out, right? Especially if they then market to a technical audience or something like that. The ones that are out of sync where it's like marketing gets a fire drill email about, hey, we're launching this feature that you marketers didn't even know people wanted, but we decided to build. Like we've sat in the opposite seat as well. But I think consumers at the end, like if you're a developer, I'm sure there's probably plenty that want to, do their 8 and skate, right? They want to put in their time, do their work, handle their tickets or whatever and like bounce. I think there's other ones. It's like you want to be really proud of your work. You want a career that you're proud of. You want your work to have impact. And the better you work with your marketing team, the more in sync they are, the more people use the product, the more people get value out of it, the more people, see the value of your work. I was talking there's a guy named Harry Dry, he's a copywriter, and he worked with Ramp on an ad, and their ad was a picture of this guy, Calvin, and it said, hey, do you want to let Calvin handle your expenses? Calvin was the person who wrote the code base with all of these technologies now. You get a receipt and you can take a picture and log it immediately. That's Calvin.
Wow. Okay.
So they made their developer the core piece of their marketing, which I think is fascinating.
I love that. That's awesome. That's such a great approach. We're here at Content Marketing World. You work with mainly B2B brands, you mentioned, right?
Yeah.
In the technology space. What are some of the trends that you're excited for looking forward when it comes to content, when it comes to the web, and just tech in general right now?
So I see a lot of brands go through a couple distinct phases, right? We start out with random acts of marketing. We're just trying a bunch of stuff. And that's great. And that serves us for a while. It's good. You want to hit a critical volume of marketing materials and you're doing things, you're testing stuff, whatever. Then eventually we codify those things into playbooks, right? We get our swipe files, and eventually your playbook becomes so important to you that you start to be like, hey, should I be the one speaking at events? Is my playbook the best practice? Should I write a book? Should I be going on podcasts to talk about this? Where I work uniquely with brands is helping them bridge into that. But then the thing that I think we've all seen over in like these uncertain times, which feels like every year for the last 5 years, right? It's always something that makes things uncertain, is somebody's playbooks don't work anymore. and we know they don't work. We're working harder than ever. We're, in this era of what I would call like a content cold war, where it's just people, for some reason, brands think whoever has the most content wins. So they just are producing as much as possible. I'm excited for brands to transition away from being playbook-led back into being the pendulum swings back, right? Back into being problem-led. How do we pick a problem to solve? How do we name that problem? Give it like a short, 2 to 3 word phrase, like name for it. I call it content IP. And then
Content IP, I like that.
It's pretty good, right? My content IP is checkbox marketing. It's the villain that I push back against. I think every brand needs that.
Yep.
Name that thing. Give your audience a 2 or 3 word phrase. Give them a lens through which to see the world when you're not in the room. Then eventually they adopt that phrase. It becomes what the community calls that problem. And you know who they trust to solve it? You or me or whoever coined it.
I love that. When you're talking to a brand, now I'm just curious mostly, how do you differentiate that between like category creation, which has become that same type of tired playbook in a lot of cases?
I have so many strong feelings on. So here's the thing. I think everybody heard the stat that like the category leader gets 72% of the revenue or something.
Yep.
They get the biggest lion's share of it. So they were, for some reason, somebody did some extrapolative thinking and was like, all right, how about we get 72% of our own category? We're going to make a category. And I've seen so many brands try in vain to create a category when all it did was confuse their buyers.
Yep.
And I think that's a huge mistake. We all thought for a second that we had to create the category. And if you look at any of the great category creators, they will all tell you the same thing. We did not create this category. We saw an existing wave and we rode it.
Yep.
And the problem is that a lot of companies, there is no wave happening to ride that is new. And when you name something that already exists, all it does is confuse them. There's no upside to that.
Yeah. And it bifurcates the competition and gets too
And
many...
the best, to your point, like the best category creators also name the problem.
Yes. Yeah. And I think some of the best category creation stories I can think of came from that problem. And it wasn't just we're trying to capitalize on this specific thing. It's we're solving a real world issue that people are struggling with, that companies are struggling with, that they're trying to solve. And this is what it's called. This is how we're solving it. This is what the solution is.
Yeah. And it's like we exist to solve this problem.
Yep.
Our community exists to solve this problem. Our marketing exists. Our product exists. Every bit of that entire company is like, we exist to help you fix this. And that's such a good lens, especially as you get bigger and bigger and as you scale as a company, you lose focus. Now it becomes about, all right, we have a team for this feature. We have a team for this region and we have a team. And I think that can happen, but you lose that focus and then the marketing becomes really bland.
Yep. One question that I've been asking people throughout the last few days is what you see as the future of A, the web, but B, content in general, as AI has taken over so much of the conversation, and to a slightly lesser extent, the actual work, but how we're all thinking about this stuff.
So put yourself in the seat of a restaurant owner. Historically, their goal was to get as many people in the restaurant as possible. Foot traffic correlated directly with revenue and sales and the success of the business. Then comes the pandemic. We have to change. Foot traffic is not happening. We see the rise. It was already happening, but we see an intense push into a world of Uber Eats, DoorDash, name your favorite platform, right? So what has to happen now? Well, first, we either have to realize that foot traffic does not equal revenue anymore.
Yep.
Web traffic does not equal revenue anymore. Second thing that's happening is we have to realize people want to consume stuff where they are. Zero-click content has become a really important thing, right? My friend Amanda Natividad coined that phrase, is writing a book about it. I believe in it fully. And it's coming from a guy with an SEO background where traffic was everything.
Yep.
If you didn't get clicks, you didn't exist, right? So we're seeing that happen. We're also seeing, and this is really interesting to go really deep on the restaurant analogy, now if your food tasted great in the restaurant, but after sitting in a container for 15 minutes in somebody's car, it tastes like garbage, you now have to rethink your product. Do we have a product that can last in this new environment where it's not just amazing here? Like the fries are great when you buy them here, but they're not making them. They're McDonald's. Do you ever had McDonald's fries that are like 20 minutes old?
Yeah.
Instantly terrible.
Bricks.
The worst, right? But they would have to change if they were like, hey, we're going to do this on a like delivery basis. all of a sudden the product has to change. And I think we're seeing that in my world of technology and in the web generally, where it's like, okay, cool, we had this information on our website or on these third-party review sites or wherever it existed, but now people want it in an LLM. People want it in an AI overview. They want it on social directly. They don't want to click anything, or they want it directly in their email. We're still sending out newsletters that are 3 blogs in a trench coat,
Right.
Do you get those corporate newsletters?
All
Or it's
the
like,
time.
here's our 3 latest blogs and here's our latest webinar, and that's the newsletter? Like, what are we doing? Right? Instead, give them all the value in there, and there's no click. The goal isn't conversion. The goal is consumption. That's where I think the web is headed. I think we're all seeing that happening. The question is, are we going to be the restaurant owner that adapts to it and thrives in that environment? Or are we going to be the person that holds out and then 6 months later doesn't have enough foot traffic and shuts down the restaurant?
Right. Yeah, and it comes down to the flavor of the food, that lasting, the longevity that you mentioned, and the authenticity between those two things too. So when somebody does open that newsletter, they're getting a human experience instead of one of the other 8 million emails that are in their inbox day in, day out.
My friend Jay Akunzo talks all the time about don't be the best, be their favorite. And I think the more we take that lens, the more we take that lens to our website and our product, and I think web, to the point with web, your website traffic is now even more valuable.
Yeah.
Because there is arguably less of it. So when somebody says, I want to come to your website, they are ready to do something. They're not doing it casually anymore. There is a higher intent on website visitors than there was in the past.
Which is great. I think there's some pain points that come with that transition, but it's something we should all strive for. Is everybody hitting our site needs to be there. They're there for a reason.
Yeah, they're not stumbling and accidentally anymore. Again, coming with an SEO background, I always joke that in the sales world, it's funny that my friend Jen Allen Knuth does sales training, and she pointed this out to me recently, that sales, if you think about any famous salesperson from a movie, they're always closers, right? The Glengarry, Glenn Ross always be closing. They put their strongest people on closing. Mostly in technology companies or any company, who's the opener?
Yep.
It's the BDR with 1 day of experience. They're 21 years old. Like they're the least experienced, least mature, least time in the industry. They put the worst person on opening.
Right.
And I said to her, I go, Jen, it's funny, we do the same thing in marketing. Our first touch point in marketing has been some over-optimized SEO blog. Yuck.
Yeah.
Like that's a terrible first introduction to land on one of those and be like, oh, this thing's 27,000 words long. And it doesn't need to be in the,
but it's got perfect headers.
Yeah, for what is field marketing? Like I don't think anybody wants this. So I think that now the way we open with people on the website, what is their first experience? How do we take them through the Eugene Schwartz levels of, I know I'm like throwing a lot out here, but like the Eugene Schwartz levels of awareness, right? Like unaware, problem aware, solution, product, most aware. Thinking about it that way. Yeah. Right? Let's have a different journey.
There's a statistic, I can't remember the actual number, but a buyer at this point, especially in the software space, has done 70% of the research before they even hit your site. So that first touch point really has to capture them in a different way than what they've seen in the LLMs or in the article on a random website that they saw.
Absolutely. I think we'll see branded search go up. We're all seeing, I think everybody, if they look in their Google search console right now, almost all of us have what I call like a crocodile curve,
right?
Where impressions and clicks were in tandem. And now we all have that mouth opening now at the end. Clicks are down, impressions are up. And this is just the state of things maturing. I think with search traffic and web traffic generally is just, we're seeing less of it. Like we saw it, I think we're all acting like this is a huge change we've never lived through.
Yeah.
But I built an e-commerce brand on Facebook. Circa 2010.
Okay.
So
what were you selling?
I was just Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu uniforms.
Nice. Okay.
Figured out it was what I did. It was my hobby, and I was like, I'll just make some of these. But that was back in the day of 100% organic Facebook reach. If you had 10,000 people that liked your page when you posted, 10,000 people saw it.
People got it.
And then you could post 5 times a day, and those 10,000 people would see it again and again, and you could grow. And then the, meta apocalypse happened, and they were like, the reach is now 0.5% on these pages, and we're an ads platform. And I lived through that, and I was like, all right, cool, let's adapt, let's change, let's meet people where they're at. The social graph change. It used to be friends and family, and now it's interest-based. Okay, let's adapt to that. We're just seeing that happen. It happened in social, and it happened in a few isolated places, and now we're just seeing an evolution of it generally.
Yeah.
across the web.
So aside from, stay calm and carry on, which also makes sense, what advice are you giving to the brands that you work with around this shift that we're all seeing right now? I think there are a lot of people panicking around it.
I think a lot of people are panicking, but I think the problem was we sold web traffic as a metric, as a business metric.
Yeah.
Right. It was directly correlated or whatever. It correlated directly. And I think it never did. But we had to try to explain marketing to our CEO and our CFO and stuff.
And a funnel is very clean.
Yeah, we have this linear funnel and all of this stuff. And then you actually have a platform like a Dream Data or something like that shows, oh, weird, there's 4 SDR touch points and we sent them 2 gifts and they came to 9 webinars and they did all of these things influence the purchase decision of this. Not like we're not selling t-shirts to people.
Right.
And I would love to be in the t-shirt business sometimes, but we're not selling those. This is not an impulse buy. This is not a whatever. We're selling $20,000 to $20 million a year software. These are considered purchases. And if I'll talk to companies, they'll be like, I'll ask, how long is your sales cycle? And they'll say, oh, it's about 9 months. Awesome. How long is your marketing cycle? No clue. And that's fine.
Yeah.
We just have never talked about that before.
Right.
And what's cool with the marketing cycle is it's usually 3 to 4x from like the first time somebody's heard of you to the time that they would be able a place or want to buy from you. So you're telling me that you want this blog I wrote to produce some sort of business revenue in quarter when your sales cycle is already 9 months long, so it can't. And the marketing cycle is
didn't it
3 years
today?
before it. Yeah, so we might be looking at a 4-year life cycle to see actual money from this, depending on how we do things. So I think we just we sold ourselves a lie to make everybody else happy. And now we're kind of having to come to terms with that and say like, hey, look, this is how everything's always worked. We now have some tools to measure it, but we also have to bring back like brand and brand marketing. And don't get me wrong, like especially working in tech, we've all seen the previously very cheap, near infinite amounts of VC money just yeeted straight into the sun on nonsense. Just so they could hyperscale and raise a new round 9 months later. Like we've all been through that too. This is not that anymore, right? So we have to be a little more cautious, a little more thoughtful. But I'll be honest with you, I think building a brand that becomes people's favorite is absolutely the way forward. And we have to, if you have a CMO or a marketing leader that's asking that question, cool, how does this help us become their favorite? You're going to be successful.
Yeah, I think it goes back to something you and I and a few other folks were talking about before we jumped on here, creating that community where you're attached to the community as a brand, but not necessarily driving every part of the conversation, creating a space for people to participate and create that conversation themselves.
Yeah, getting your place to become their place and this is a big mistake I think people make with community. They conflate community and audience. Audience is I'm talking to you. Community is I've introduced you to, it's a house party. Hey, did you two know each other? You have something in common, right? And then I just Homer Simpson fade into the bushes. I don't even need to be here anymore. But you're at my house and you appreciate that. And you'll always remember like, hey, I met so-and-so at Brendan's house. And I think the more we think about those sorts of things as well, the more value. And also, let's be honest, like, especially on the web, that's owned real estate. If you have a community, if you have a community space where they can interact and things like that, whether it's a Slack group or some other platform, or even put up a Facebook group, those still thrive on there. And you can absolutely still use them in your business, or start a subreddit about, for your users where they can share how they're using things.
Yeah, absolutely. Brandon, thank you so much for joining us. Really enjoyed the conversation. Enjoyed meeting you here at Content Marketing World. Can we do a high five here?
Yeah, dude, thank you.
Nice. Thank you.
Oh, again, we got to.
Yeah, we got to do that again. There we go.
Much better.
All right. Thank you for joining.